west of the Rockies. And now, live from the Blazing Press Studios, it's Late Night with Robert.
What's going on, guys? Blazing Press here once again. Robert, what's happening? Yep, we're going to get into the news once again, as we always do, especially with what's happening right now. There's so much going on. I can't even begin to tell you. It's going to take me 2 hours to get through all this. But hey, I got time. You got time? What do you think? How about I switch it up? Ba-dun! This one looks more newsy. I wish I could get right inside that little bubble there. What's going on, guys? So we're going to get into all this. I just want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Hello. Hey, Jude, Gerardo, Elizabeth, Heidi, Kimber, Pet Goat, Little Redhead Homestead. Oh, Little Redhead Hen. Little Red Hen. I got some hens. Jen. What's going on, Marcel? And who else we got? We got a lot of people in here tonight. Dancing with Daughters. Brooks and Cynthia. Hey, okay, so we're gonna get into what's going on. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening. It's hitting the fan. I'm kind of getting the feeling like something big is about to hit the fan, and we already know just from the news that something big is about to hit the fan. But what is actually going to happen is the real question. Do we even know? Does our government even know, or do they know? And they're just going to spring this. That's why they call it shock and. That's why he calls it shock and awe. The last time I ever heard the word shock and awe was in 1991 when we invaded and started dropping shock and awe on top of Saddam Hussein's city. That's the last time I remember them using that term, shock and awe. 12B, what's going on? And so I told Lookner that if he wanted them here, how about you and Kermit pay for it? He probably instantly banned you. I had just got so blown away when I looked up Lookner and that he had actually been on the Muppets, or he was a writer for the Muppets or something. Because I'm telling you, the way he cuts his hair, he looks like Beaker. And you know, when he does that whole thing like this, that's what Beaker does. Beaker does the same thing. But you can't make that up, man. It's like art imitating, what do they say? Art imitating reality or something. But anyways, we're just having a little fun with Lookner. He's a comedian. He likes comedy. So this is a little comedy for him. It's nothing personal. But anyways, how's it going, Sid for Brains? I'm sure he's got a lot of good ones for me too. He actually did. He did like kind of really come after us at one point. He called me a troll and he said a bunch of stuff against me. But that was back in the day when our channel was bigger than RSBN. That was right when RSBN first started. I think it was like 2016. And our channel was like way at the top of the feed. We were always at the very top. We were like the number one Trump channel, 2016. It wasn't Blazing Press at the time, though. It was Trumpet News. Some of you guys remember that channel, Trumpet News. But yeah, we just kind of DJ'd it, and I played everything. I kind of piped it all in. And then I got on, and I did some fiery commentary. I wasn't spitting like Lookner. I wasn't spitting like white foam or anything, but I was definitely doing some animated commentary. And we played a lot of memes. The memes were like the hit. Remember, like some of the memes were like the Obama if song where he would say if. Anyways, we played them all. We played the Alex Jones memes. That's what got Alex Jones all into memes, because he realized everybody found out about him through our program. Well, we were getting like 1 million views a day, every day getting over 1 million views. And we were just making Alex Jones popular and we were roasting all of the major politicians out there. It's pretty crazy. But anyways, that's kind of why he got upset, was because our channel was like a little bit above their channel. It was actually always on top. Yeah. So what was I going to say? There was something I was thinking of. It had something to do with the mainstream too, because at that time the mainstream contacted us and they kind of wanted to know why our channel was always on the top, and they wanted to do story. Supposedly, they wanted to do a story on quick response YouTube channels, and that was. And I'm just going to tell you guys this. The reason I was thinking about that was because I think we're headed for a whole new round of censorship. Once Trump came in, censorship began in 2017 of April. I remember it like it was yesterday. I could just do this little thing where it was like going back to a dream. But no, it was like we had 3 channels, almost 500,000 subscribers. I mean, we were gaining 10, 20,000 subscribers. Every time we would go live, we would gain like 10,000 subscribers. And we would stream all day long, and it was crazy. But we had like 3 channels, and we had almost 500,000 subscribers, or probably more. And what ended up happening was we got contacted by the media, a pretty large outlet. I can't remember if it was Washington Post or it was New York Post. I can't remember which one. It was something Post. There might have been another one in there too. And my wife said they wanted to do, talk to me, and they wanted to do a story, and I was like, why do they want to talk to me? And she said that they said, and we looked at the email, and it was legit. We checked it out and make sure it wasn't a troll or anything. And they said, oh no, we want to do a story on your channel, and we're calling it the Quick Response YouTube channels. Why your feed is always at the top? Why is your feed always at the top? Well, at that time, the algorithms were wide open, and they didn't censor the algorithms. They let anybody who had a lot of people watching. It was dictated by the amount of people that watched your channel, right? Now, that's not like that. Even if I had 10,000 people watching me right now, you wouldn't even see me on the front page. You wouldn't even see me on a Google search. But back then, if you typed in a certain term that was in your title, and if I had the most people watching, I would be at the top of the feed, whether it was a Google search or a YouTube search. So we streamed live because, see, we knew about live streaming way in advance. We were doing live streaming back in 2010, 2011. Well, livestream.com and Ustream, I think it was. It might have been Ustream or something like that. But we did livestream.com back in 2011. We had a show. We already knew about live streaming. So when YouTube got live streaming in 2016, they opened it up. We started doing it right off the bat. Nobody else was doing it. Nobody knew what to do with it. Well, we already knew. So we started using all the terms, like anything big in the news, we would put it in the title. And then so people would be searching for that news event. They would type it in a Google search, or they would type it in YouTube search, and we would pop up top of the feed. So we get all these new people coming in every day, anytime there was a news event. So after the election, going into 2017, here we are, April 2017, I started noticing a bunch of, shenanigans going on the back channel inside of AdSense, because I would monitor the AdSense channel, and I could see in real time, and it was real time. I could see real time stats, literally real time. They stopped doing that after a little bit, but they started stopping the AdSense. Like it was like they cut it off. And I noticed, I'm like, why are they doing this to my channel? Like they would cut it off for a whole day and I wouldn't get nothing. I was like, what in the world? So I started realizing something's going on here. It's not good, whatever it is. And I started realizing, hey, it's not Alex Jones. That's the canary in the coal mine. It is Trumpet News. It is Robert and Trumpet News channel, because they're coming after us. I can see it already. And then I started realizing, wow, this is kind of weird. And then once this media organization contacted us, and I think there might have been another one there too, kind of at the same time, I didn't respond, and I just kind of blew them off. Didn't respond back. I was like, why not talk to them? I'm not going to talk to them. Well, they're probably just going to do a hit piece or something or make me look stupid or who knows what they're going to do. I'm not going to talk to them. And so I just blew them off and I didn't even respond. Not even a week later, bam, every single one of my channels on YouTube wiped off the face of the of YouTube. Gone. No reasons, no strikes, no reasons for why they did it. They just took them all off. We were like, what in the world happened? We were like, crying, our channels are gone. Our support, everything that we were doing, it's over. And I tried to rebuild the channels. Like, I did a few of these here. These are from some of the leftovers from after the fallout. But we kind of gave up, after you build something and then they take it down, and we built it back up again and they took it down again. And this was like the third round. We were just like, whatever. They're going after everybody. It's going to hit the fan. And then eventually they took down Alex Jones. Well, they went after Alex Jones, and I think they went after, I think that's when they started the cancel thing. Everything was cancel. Cancel this, cancel that. That's when they went after Roseanne Barr, remember? And they took Roseanne Barr off. And they started doing that cancel culture thing. That's when it all started kind of rolling out. Well, anyways, the reason I'm bringing this up is because I believe that censorship, especially with all the new technology there's out there, is coming hardcore. And it's going to be worse than it was in 2017 and when Trump first came in. All you people out there, I'm just wanting you to understand, I'm not here gloating at the fact that we predicted all the things that are happening right now, especially, with people like, B. Gates and they're buddy now, and they're talking about how excited they are because they're going to roll these things out, and they're having 3-hour conferences. Trump and B. Gates now are just buddy. I don't know if you heard that interview, but you go over to my Telegram channel and you start listening to what's going on and this is right out of his own mouth, B. Gates. Some of these terms you can't even use on YouTube now. First of all, they'll demonetize you, and then they'll algorithmically, change things. So there's certain things you don't want to say. But when you talk about things like the whole 2020 devil juice, stuff that went on, or magic potion, I'll call it the magic potion. And so B. Gates was on the other day, or I guess he made a video talking about how much in love he is with Trump right now, because Trump's right on board. Trump's excited. They can't wait. It all has to do with all the new technology and what they're planning to roll out here. And it's a lot more nefarious than people really think. I know I was sitting there listening to Jason Biggs on Alex Jones today. How many of you guys heard Jason Biggs on Alex Jones today with all these predictions of doom? Now, I'm not saying that I don't think that some of that's possible. I think it is possible. In fact, I do think that they're going to, I don't know if it's, I do think they're going to go after the grid. I think Trump's going to capitalize on all that, and he's going to definitely be the strong man. He's going to be the dictator. He has to be at that point because everything's in complete chaos. But I think he knows a lot more than what we know. And I don't know if you heard Jason Biggs on Alex today, but it was pretty ominous, to say the least, some of the things that he's talking about. And it's not something that I haven't really thought about myself, potentially, but, it's Brandon Biggs. I'm sorry, not Jason. Okay, it's Brandon. Yeah, let's go. It's Brandon, not let's go. Whoops. It's Brandon Biggs. And he's like, hello, family. This is Brandon Biggs. I'm bringing to you another prophecy, something the Lord has shown me. He goes on talking about what the Lord has shown him. And I'm not saying that, he's not hearing certain things that are happening, but I know a lot of this that he talks about kind of goes along with the news cycle. But if you really break it down and say, did he really predict that? Did he really predict the eardrum blowing out? It could have been, it's kind of, what I look at it like, there's all kinds of people prophesying. Everybody's prophesying. They're just hoping to hit the big time. They're on YouTube. They're prophesying this, prophesying that, prophesying this, prophesying that. You got all these channels out there prophesying. And they prophesy every day, and they're just hoping they're going to hit something. It's kind of like going to the casino. You got your dice, and you're just like, holy gold, double snake eyes. And one of the times, somebody gets it. Bam, they hit it. Woo, they got close at least. And Brandon Biggs got pretty close on the ear thing. And then when he said recently about You throw enough stuff in, and then if it doesn't happen, you're like, I think we've stopped it. Our prayers, the prayers literally stopped it from happening. God heard our prayers. Thank God it didn't happen. But one of the things that he said was that you got Nevada. He said there's going to be something happening in Las Vegas. There's going to be something happening in New Orleans. And the Lord showed me it's going to happen in Tennessee all at the same time. The Tennessee thing is going to be really big, though. Whatever's going on in Tennessee, that's going to be big. Not too big in New Orleans, not too big. It's just going to be, the Lord's not showing me it's going to be that big in New Orleans, but something big in Las Vegas. But it's going to be big in Tennessee, big, all going to happen at the same time. Well, what happened? Well, you had Las Vegas, and then you had New Orleans, but New Orleans was the big thing. Nothing happened hardly in Vegas, except that was just a statement. Whoever the guy was that wanted to get the message out, he got his message out. Obviously, I don't think he was really intending to hurt anybody. I think he just wanted to get people's attention, and that's what it said in the manifesto that he sent to Sean Ryan. And so the other thing in Tennessee never happened. So those prophecies, like people like, oh, he's a prophet. He got it again. The second time. How does somebody do this? I'm betting it all on the red, and it hits, like, dang. Well, it kind of hit, like I said, it kind of hit with the ear, because the ear thing, he said, blew out his eardrum. Did it blow out his eardrum? No. And I didn't even see a scar. After a week, he takes off his his little My Pillow ear pillow thing, and there was no scar. I didn't see even a red spot. I don't know what the heck happened there. Like I said, I got burned right here. Right there. Can you see that? There's a little red spot right there. I told you guys when I got burned on my stove, like almost a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago almost. Okay, well, the scab fell off like the other day, just 3 days ago. The scab finally fell off. It took about a week and a half. And there's still a red mark. But maybe it's because I don't heal fast. I don't know, because Trump said I heal fast, because he knew people were like, where's the scar? Dude, you took it off in like a week off of your ear. And there's no scar. There's no hole. Like, what did they do? Sew it up? Like, how did it get? A bullet went through your ear and you don't have even a scar? What the heck? That's like a miraculous, comeback. I mean, like, dang, maybe he is a fast healer. I'm a fast healer. Hey, everybody. And so, like, Trump's fast healer. Okay. Well, here's what we're going to do. I want to make sure I get everybody here when everybody's here. Okay, so you guys, we're going to be doing the deep dive on the inauguration Patreon for all of you guys that are on our Patreon page. Thank you for your support. This is what helps us to do our daily shows. All of you supporters out there are what keep us on the air. So for all you out there that are like, well, I can't see it. Well, we talk about a lot of the stuff that we talk. But this is the deep dive think tank. This is the one that goes out in the front. This is like the special forces that we're all kind of getting together and getting into the depths of the information. We're going to be talking about the Osiris Rising ritual that happens every presidential inauguration. We're going to go through all the detailed information. We're going to show you all the Library of Congress, everything that people don't know about that's in the Library of Congress. You can see all the information right there that basically supports the foundations of what DC is. It's just like a big magnet. It's kind of like Ghostbusters. Remember the building was like a magnet for all the powers of darkness and all the demons to come down and manifest. Well, this is kind of the way they set DC up. It's just like this big, spiritual magnet. It's kind of like a portal into the way they laid out. It's kind of like the ley lines. If you've ever heard what ley lines are and about certain types of architecture and the way they lay it out. Well, that's the way DC was, that's the way they designed it. And not to mention the Masonic influences upon these rituals and what the rituals actually mean and where and how far back they go in history. They go all the way back to the ancient Egyptians. Okay, and this is a part of the predictions, even of the Essenes. If you don't know who the Essenes are, they were the prophets that were in right there at the time when John the Baptist came in. He was an Essene. He came out of the desert. He came out of the Qumran community. And if you don't know what the Qumran community is, go to my YouTube channel and check out the interview that I did with Jim. I forgot his name, his last name. He's kind of like an Indiana Jones. He's the one that found the golden, or not the golden, the copper scrolls. Or he didn't find them. He interpreted them. He interpreted them. They are a map. Basically, it's a map that's embedded within this copper scroll, and it supposedly shows where the treasures of the first temple are hidden. And they're hidden in Qumran. And he went out there with all the equipment, and he's got the praises of even the Israeli government because of the information that he disclosed. And his equipment actually got a lot of detections and a lot of signatures underground. Jim Barfield is his name. You can find the interview there. It's really interesting. His name is Jim Barfield, Barfield. And he talks about how. Now, why did I bring that up? I brought up the the Qumran community was the community of prophets, right, at the time. And so they predicted, even back in the Essene prophecies of the Dead Sea, or they're not the Dead Sea Scrolls. I think there were the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was a part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but the copper scroll was found later, and it was found in some other caves. I'm not sure where it was, but it basically is a map. And he, as an investigator, added his investigative skills to interpreting the map, and he actually found what he believes is where it's all buried, right there in Qumran. Anyways, it's really interesting interview. You want to take it. It's about a 2-hour interview. We go into a lot of details, so you'll kind of understand what it is. But the Qumran community was a community of prophets and priests. And they believe that's where John the Baptist came out of, was the Qumran community. And they had the actual interpretation that was accurate according to their following of which calendar they followed. They followed the lunar calendar, I believe. There was 2 different calendars, and one of the calendars was more accurate, so they were able to predict things more accurately according to the Torah and all the predictions of the prophets about the future. And one of the things they predicted was that in 2025, the Messiah would appear. All the way back then in their writings. Okay, there's other writings too. Alice Bailey, one of the occultists for the, I think it's the Theosophy Society. She also predicted 2025 would be the day, and some of these occultists were, working together on this, but they got information on when this new age or golden age would dawn, and it would be in the year 2025. It would be in the beginning of it. But anyways, we're going to go into all the information, and you have to go and do the research before we have our meeting. We're going to have a meeting in Zoom. It's a Zoom call. We've got 100 seats. Right now, we've got 100 seats. So if you want to be a part of that, go over to our Patreon group and sign up and get connected to us. And for those who are the supporters, you get let in, and we'll definitely let you guys know all the information after we're done. We'll definitely post a lot of that information for all you guys to see. And this is what we're asking. We're asking that you first view the documentary before you come into the chat, because the chat room is going to be a whole another level of information that's going to expound and get into the depths of what you viewed in that documentary, okay? So we're going to go into a lot more information, so you have to get familiar with the information by watching the documentary first, okay? So the documentary is already embedded. Once you get connected, you'll get the links. You'll find out where it's going to be, the time and the date, which is tomorrow, Saturday, 5 p.m. Saturday, and you're all invited. 5 p.m. Saturday. There should be enough seats. I'm sure that we're not going to get 100. Well, maybe we will. Maybe we will. But like I said, this is very important. It has to do with the inauguration. It has to do with what's actually happening, which I believe is literally happening at this very moment. And for the inauguration itself to be brought into the Capitol is another sign. It only happened one other time with Reagan back in '85, but what I think is interesting is Reagan was an actor too. And I think that whole acting spirit behind the actors, just like Aleister Crowley said, some of the greatest magic is those that are in the entertainment acting field. And you know who was an actor, right? Reagan was an actor. So he was one of the ones that had his inauguration inside of the rotunda in the Capitol. And if you go into the Capitol, it's the belly of where the pregnancy is supposed to happen. And this Osiris Rising ritual that happens, like I said, every inauguration inside of D.C., right there at the Masonic Temple, which is the capital of Masonry, right there, the headquarters. And it's been there, and they've done this all the way back to George Washington. And so when this Osiris Rising ritual does take place, and by the way, the reason they're moving the inauguration in is they're saying it's because of cold weather. But there's also some talk about it being extremely dangerous because of all the stuff that's happening now with, they're talking about, I mean, this is what was his name, Biggs? Brandon Biggs was talking about on Alex Jones today. He's talking about, terrible things happening to Trump and to everybody else, Elon, and, that this is what he sees happening. Not to mention, all the illegals that have come over and what they're planning. And we told you guys a lot of this already, that there's probably some kind of Mumbai-style attacks coming to America. And if you don't know what Mumbai is, it's the attacks that happen in India, in all of the tourist areas where they came in teams and they highly trained, armed to the T with small arms and also, explosives and things. And they came in to take out Jews and Americans. They were just looking for Jews and Americans. And they were hard to get out. The Indian military came in, tried to root them out. They were in a number of different buildings and hotels. They had taken over hotels. It took a week, almost 2 weeks to get them out to finally, put an end to this. But it was only a handful of people in a couple of different small teams. But they came over in boats and they killed a bunch of people. They did a lot of harm and a lot of havoc. But it ended up going on and on. But like I said, a small group of people, and they're saying that there's all kinds of talk about 1,000 different, of these groups, or not groups, but people that are probably a part of groups that are trained, highly trained, and well-funded. And they're saying probably even, government kind of sponsored groups that are here. But I won't go into all the details of that. We can read some of the information on this. But anyways, I just wanted to let you know that, this is definitely something that we should be prayerfully, and this is going to affect everybody too. I keep looking at this sense that I get that's coming where things are going to be shut down, or you're going to be in a situation where you're being influenced on a certain level because of power outages, hacks against the critical infrastructure, potential upheaval, because of these types of events unfolding within the country, not to mention possible potential disruption from our adversaries and wars breaking out even more in earnest than they already are in these different locations that are spreading us thin, and possible even attacks on the homeland from, real-time, big-time, conflicts that could use real weapons. And so, we're living in a very precarious moment in time. And Trump, that's why he has that stern, harsh look on his face, because he knows he's got to try to intimidate to stop what's happening. Or either that, or he's a part of that, facilitating of the all these events. But, I have to think that the MAGA people and also the Jews are looking at Trump as not being true to his word, because he's kind of turning the tables in some of these deals that they thought they were going to have in their favor, and now it seems to be going contrary to what their expectations are. A lot of this is the same things going on with the MAGA movement. But, when you have deal makers, they have to make compromises, and that's exactly what, you're always appeal to your base in the beginning, then you pivot to the center, right? That's what they say in politics is what happens. But so he's kind of going back into the center, appealing to the left, and obviously we're the majority and those who have great influence. This is why the left is kind of like, well, we'll see how he does. The media is all like, and some people that really hated him are leaving the country because they're deathly afraid he's going to do something to them. But with all these roundups that are coming, you got to kind of wonder: is this the long night? What do they call it? The long night of the long night of the long knives. What did they call it? The night of the long knives. Remember that? How many of you guys remember that? The night of the long knives. I know a lot of you weren't born back then, but if you studied your history, you know what I'm talking about, right? How many of you guys know what that is? The night of the long knives. I think it's called Night of the Long Knives, or it's Night of the Long Swords, or no. Yeah, and then Zuckerberg is on Rogan. That was real interesting. Totally. Let me see if I got it right there. I think it's called Night of the. Let's see if that's it. Yeah, it's called Night of the Long Knives. It was a purge by the N Party of Germany, which that is. And it says purge of the N Party members and political opponents that took place in N Germany in 1934. This was right about the time when Germany was trying to make a comeback. Their economy was totally, completely destroyed. Inflation was through the roof. Corruption was everywhere. And here comes a man promising peace and safety. Here comes a man who has great influence and is a very charismatic personality. They've taken some of those speeches and translated them into English with the AI, and people are like, wow, that was an awesome speech. But did you know it was actually the N-Man from Germany? But so what happened was he got all this funding from globalists, even people like Ford were behind him, and they poured all this money into Germany's economy, and it rose from the dead. It literally overnight roared back to the point where they rebuilt their military, and they started having some kind of influence over the whole of the society, where it kind of rejuvenated back, and people's depression was resolved, and their pride came back, and their culture and everything was starting to revive. Because there was people starving back. People were literally, they couldn't even buy a loaf of bread. They had a wheelbarrow full of money. It's called the Weimar Republic, remember? And so he completely restored Germany to its apex of its influence, not only within the country itself and its history, but also in its standing with the world. And then we have the beginnings of what now becomes what we know of history as World War II, and how that all unfolded. Now, there's some really interesting history that I don't think, they say that the history is written by the victor, right? The victor usually writes the history. Well, it's always good to go back and really have an unbiased look at what really took place, and look at it from the loser's point of view as well, or if you might say they are losers, because some people say that they were assimilated into the American system. And, when you talk about fascism, Germany was a fascist country, but if you don't know what fascism is, fasci is basically a couple of what do they call it? They're like a bundle of sticks with the axe heads on them. Have you ever seen what a fasci is? Well, there's two fasci right there in Congress, right? If you've ever seen Congress and you look at the podium and you look at where the vice president sits and blah blah blah, well, you see the two fasci on both sides, and it's also on our money. If you haven't ever looked at an actual dime, their fasci are on there too. But what's really interesting, and if you look at the rotunda and you look at the actual the apotheosis on the ceiling of the rotunda, you'll see fasci on there too. Yeah, I think George Washington's holding a fasci too. Well, that's where they get the term fascist anyway, right? Well, fascist society is based on corporate influence and over the economy and over government, right? It's a government run by corporatism. Well, you could say it's corporatism. It's basically a government run by corporate influence. Like Zuckerberg or Bezos or Musk. People that are really rich and have big, powerful companies. They basically just kind of run the government. That's what you would call a fascist state. But anyways, so these types of things that happen in history may in fact be repeating itself. It's called a cycle, the cycle of life. I always like that Lion King where, Scar has got all of his hyenas marching. They're like, and he's like singing that song, how he's going to be the king of the world. And you guys remember that? And they're all like, that's the way I feel right now. Where they're getting everybody in line and lockstep. And so this happened in history, and I think that we can kind of see the rumblings of something similar actually happening once again. And everybody was in love with this man. Everybody was looking to him as their hope and as their, literally, they looked at him as a Messiah figure. Not maybe not religiously in the sense of like a Jesus or anything, but they looked at him as a political Messiah. They looked at him as someone that was going to really save and had already done such a great job and such a quick job at bringing back everything that Germany once was, and even more, right? Even more. And so the Golden Age, they might have even called it the Golden Age too. Well, this is an occult term anyway, but they were fighting the globalists. If you know anything about what was happening there, they were fighting the global powers that wanted to try to bring about an order that they themselves did not want to go along with. They wanted to be more of an independent kind of nationalist type entity, right? And globalism. And Trump is a globalist, or is Trump a nationalist? Is he really a nationalist, or is he a globalist? Can you guys tell me? Can you educate me on that? Anyway, the night of the long knives was a night when everything changed and the political parties that were contrary were soundly defeated in one night. It was a dictatorial moment in time for just one night, where they went out and they basically executed and arrested and went after all the enemies in just one night. Called the, I won't go into all the terminologies here because it'll get looked at in a bad way. This stream will be, that's why I can't use all the terms, that's why I say and Germany. So, anyways, let's get into some news. Are you guys ready for some news? And by the way, on our Telegram or on our Patreon channel, we have a whole lot of documentaries that you can get into. In fact, I'm going to be posting a lot more documentaries. So just being a Patreon member, you're having access to a great library of information that you probably won't find some of these documentaries easily accessible or even find them. Some of them have been scrubbed because of their, they're not, what would you call, what's the word? Politically correct. Anyways, there's a lot of ideas and thoughts that we have that might actually be so close to the truth and so really actually true that they're not supposed to be talked about because they're too accurate. Now, you can be kind of accurate and they don't mind. You can get kind of close to the truth. As long as you don't really expose the real reasons for why things are happening, you're fine. But if you get too close and you get to the point where you're really putting all the pieces together for people, that's when they don't like that. That's something that's a no-no. And it's really scary because now, and I'm not scared, but I think now that we have AI and quantum computing and everything else that goes along with that, it's much easier for them to kind of find these things out and really ferret out really what's going on, because they do monitor everything. That's why we speak in Igpe Atenle, and we talk about Atsine and things like that. There was the AI. I don't think can figure that out yet, unless they taught it. The A to the I. Can they chronicle, parables and figures of speech, and maybe even words that I would post in a little. Yeah, I was thinking about getting all these like little flashcards that I could just throw up. Does it actually read pictures? Does the AI know? But anyways, yeah, and so I guess we can get into the news here. Definitely some interesting info is all fixing to hit the fan. We're definitely on the crazy train. And I hear Ozzy Osbourne in the background laughing. Ah, 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 doo, 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 doo. I. Remember that? And Aleister Crowley. Mr. Crowley, what about that moonchild? Down, 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 down. Mr. Crowley. Anyways, how many of you guys are or used to be a heavy metal connoisseur of heavy metal? And anybody that doesn't know what the Moonchild is, it's actually Crowley's, and that wasn't the actual lyrics. I just kind of improvised lyrics there, but it had to do with the Moonchild that he was conjuring up actually on the day of Trump's birthday. It wasn't actually Aleister Crowley that did it, though. It was Elon Musk's double. Okay, Jack Parsons. Jack Parsons was kind of like an Elon Musk, by the way. He was a rocket guy. He was very involved in NASA. He was working and very integral in getting rocket technology to get us to the moon. And he was also working very closely with L. Ron Hubbard, who was the founder of Scientology. And they were doing some very crazy, weird rituals, kind of similar to this Osiris Rising ritual that they do every inauguration, except that it was bringing forth the Babylon Antichrist, which they believe to be a moonchild. And it just so happened that it happened on a full lunar eclipse, which happened to be on the day of Trump's birthday. And there's letters to prove it, by the way, that went directly to Aleister Crowley on the day of his birthday, which they had proclaimed, actually, they accomplished. Aleister Crowley wasn't the one behind it. Aleister Crowley wrote a book called The Moonchild, and it was a fictional book, but it was also very steeped in occult practice, and they were trying to bring forth a moonchild. Okay, they were trying very desperately to get this moonchild thing to happen, but Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard actually supposedly accomplished that. Now, there was conversations back and forth, but it was very interesting information. And if you want, let me just see here. Okay, you're sending me this. What is this? The end of the Egyptian pyramid, sun rising, Osiris rising ritual. It's all there. Okay, order of chaos. Yes. Was that today? That was December 7th. Okay. Let's get into some of this stuff. Let's go ahead and look at some of it. Like I said, this is a little window, a little bit of the info that you're going to be buying into, I guess, to keep us on the air, because this is really something that we need to be able to stay on doing what we're doing. We need your guys' support, and that's why we have the Patreon group. So don't feel bad for those who can't do anything. I know it's not a big cost. I mean, it's just the more people we get participating, the more we can build our subscriber base to pay the bills, because we got a lot of bills, and we definitely need to keep those bills paid, because obviously we're working, we're kind of going upstream. We're going against the wind. The wind is not at our back. We've got everything coming against what we're trying to do, but we know with God's help and with God's blessing that we will get this message out. And more people are going to hear it, because the evidence is going to confirm everything that we've been saying. And it already has. And it's much more clear and defined than some of these nebulous prophets that just kind of get close but don't really say a whole lot. They're just kind of prophesying what people already expecting. They're probably listening to us anyway and taking a lot of what we're telling them and putting it into a prophecy. But anyways, here we go. Let's go ahead and look at some of this stuff. Plagiarizing prophecy. They're plagiarizers. They're just plagiarizing what we're talking about here. No, I don't know what they're doing. I just think that some of them are a little bit out there, cuckoo land. But anyways, it's just my thought. Anyway, so here we go. This is a lot of the types of things we talk about, but the majority of what we really get into when we really start doing the spiritual deep dive is definitely scriptural. I break out every morning. We're here mid-morning, early afternoon, talking about scripture, prayer. So make sure you're a part of that because it is a spiritual deep dive, and lots of meat, definitely rolling out some meat, but it's kind of there for everyone. There's milk too. If you're a brand new Christian, you can get something out of it too. I'm sure you can. So just hang out with us every day. We try to do that every day. But then this stuff we definitely get into in the later hours, in the nighttime. And that's with Art Bell. We call it Robert Bell, Coast to Coast. All right, so this is the ending of the Pet Goat 2 video. And by the way, there is somebody in the chat called Pet Goat. So if you don't know what iPet Goat is, I'll give you a little background in a synopsis. It's a video that was posted 11 years ago, 12 years ago on YouTube that many people consider to be a prophetic from the dark side, looking forward to what they expect, almost like predictive programming. I don't know. Maybe it had some occult significance about things that were to come, and they laid it out in a chronological, animated way. And many people say that it kind of had significance because a lot of those things actually happened. They also detailed 9/11 in there. After 9/11, obviously, they did this animation, but it went viral. It got lots and lots of views, millions and millions and millions of views. People talk about it all the time. Then recently, they took it down. After many years with a lot of views, they just took it off their channel out of the blue. People were like, what does this mean? Is it something that's about to happen? So they're trying to read into it like there's some message, right? Because that was like the only video that they had on their channel. Well, they did post one other real weird cryptic video right about the same time that they took this one down, a little bit after. But then they reposted the video a few months ago. They reposted it again. So many people are kind of questioning if it's a message about that the timing of this video's fulfillment is at hand. Many people are questioning that. Anyways, it's all about the Egyptian symbology and the Antichrist and about America, which I think a lot of people don't realize. And people say, well, the Antichrist can't come from America. It would have to come from the Middle East because this is the way our theology and our eschatology has taught us. And, Hal Lindsey said this and, this person said that. And we interpreted our book of Revelation this way. Well, like I said, when you do the deep dive and you really get deeper into prophetic interpretation or eschatological, theology, or what you wouldn't call theology, it would be the study of end time events. That's what eschatology means. But you get into those deep topical studies and historical studies, and you got to look at history. You got to look at what the ancients believed. And you got to sometimes go to the extracurricular, outside the biblical, text itself. Sometimes to look at historical books, but you always are looking at biblical prophecies and scripture as your guide, obviously. But many of these other historical events that are chronicled confirm what the Bible teaches anyway. So it's always important to look. And also look at different belief systems and what they believed about these things. So order out of chaos. The Osiris Rising ritual is very similar to the conjuring of Apollo, because Osiris is Apollo, and he's supposed to come up from the pit, right, out of the abyss, and he's supposed to have some kind of parallel to the phoenix, right, the phoenix rising out of the ashes, coming back in a golden fire age. And literally, the phoenix literally molts and actually almost commits suicide itself. It's almost like a ritual of the bird itself dying at its own hand, but it's like a molting process, but then it rises back, right? So what takes place during the presidential inauguration? Osiris Rising ritual. It's Apollo, and it's all about the Antichrist. Pray for what's ahead. Okay, so like I said, this documentary that you're going to view, if you get connected to our Patreon, will go into all the details about the Osiris ritual and how DC is laid out, including the Washington Monument, the Rotunda, and the Capitol, and how these rituals take place and what they actually mean in detail. You know, even interpreting the Washington. What they call it, basically the I forget how they say it now, Apophis of Washington, which really means that he becomes a god, right? Washington has become deified. He is now a god. And if you look up at the fresco or whatever they call it on the top of the ceiling of the rotunda, I think it was painted in 1875, right after the Civil War. It was painted there on the ceiling, and it's basically a representation of the politicians being deified. And these are not angels of God or Jesus or anything. It doesn't have anything to do with Christianity. Washington was a deist, and he was also a Mason. Some people say he repudiated Masonry. He did repute he did, what they call, he did, I don't think repute is the right word. If he did reject, I guess that might be easier if I can't find the word, the order. I think there was another order of Masonry, but he never rejected Masonry itself, and he was a Mason in good standing with the lodge that was in D.C., and I believe that's there's different lodges or different orders of Masonry, but ultimately they're all connected in some way. So he never obviously rejected it. Some people say, well, he's a Christian and he rejected Masonry, and he's on our side. He's a believer, just like a lot of the early founding fathers were believers. No. Most of them were deists, and many of them went along with the God logo embedded on our seal on the dollar bill. Because it was nebulous. It just said God, and God we trust. It could be any god, and it's obviously the god of Horus at the top of the pyramid with the all-seeing eye. Obviously, that's going to be what Horus does, as he begins to watch every human being on planet Earth, causing them to take a mark, right? There's going to be that surveillance kind of mindset that the devil has over all of humanity at a certain point. This is the book of Revelation. But anyways, this ritual is definitely interesting, and you can see it at the last part of the I Pet Goat video. When he comes out of the womb, he awakens, the Antichrist. He kind of looks like a Jesus figure. But he has the pyramid with the all-seeing eye on his head, and he has the crown of barbed wire on his head. It was not the crown of thorns, but he goes through that ritual, and he comes out with Anubis on the boat, right? The Anubis is basically the god of the Egyptians, that basically was the god of the underworld, and it would, if you were on the boat, it would basically transition you into the underworld right after you die, and so he's on a boat, on an Egyptian boat with Anubis on it, and he kind of comes through the birth canal. He comes out, and it's a new day, the dawn of a golden age, and you begin to see the the destruction that comes not only to the pyramids, but you can also see a constellation in the back there. But this is the awakening of the Antichrist. This is when the Antichrist comes into the world and he becomes a part of what's happening on planet Earth in real time. Not just the Antichrist spirit. The Antichrist spirit has been on planet Earth ever since the time of Christ. It goes way back. It's since the time, of the first Adam and Eve. Obviously, the devil was been involved, but he's influenced people to be against God, to be deceived to the point where they resist the kingdom and they resist God's will, and they don't confess that there is a Messiah or Jesus is the Christ. That is the spirit of the Antichrist, right? Anyone who resists Christ is obviously moving in a spirit that is the spirit of Antichrist. But there is going to be an embodiment of the powers that be and their head ultimately possessing a human being at a certain point in time, and the powers and principalities that are going to inhabit certain people during that time, which, if you look, there's a passage in Revelation where it talks about how the beasts of Revelation that are human release these frogs out of their mouths, right? And they go to the ends of the earth, causing all kinds of havoc, drawing all the kings of the earth to battle, right? These demonic forces are released, and it draws the kings of the earth to this great battle of Armageddon. And we're starting to see, I think, there's a lot of clarity and definition coming in the last few years to a lot of these prophecies that were kind of an enigma. People didn't really understand. And this is what the book of Daniel says anyway. The angel tells Daniel that this book of this prophetic book and this insight that the angel gave to Daniel was to be sealed up until the time of the end. So this book was not to be opened. It was not to be understood until the time of the end. And that book, if you remember, Daniel fasted and prayed for the interpretation of the dream of these kingdoms that would happen in the latter day. One of the powers or the principalities that resisted Daniel's answer from the angel was Persia, the prince of Persia. And that obviously is the prince that oversees Iran. Iran is huge in the news right now because it is an entity that is moving in opposition to what God is actually doing, but it would be connected in that latter day unfolding prophetic fulfillment of the book of Daniel. You would begin to see all of these pieces coming together. And people have been talking about different prophecies all the way back from the time of Hal Lindsey. And obviously Hal Lindsey got it wrong on a lot of things. He had some things, but there was a lot that he didn't get. It was misinterpreted. And so if you go back to the Prince of Persia, we're in that time where Prince of Persia is manifesting once again. And Israel is obviously in the middle of all this. But the Revelation 12 sign that we chronicled very clearly and defined right before October 7th actually happened a week later. And we told everybody that there was going to be a war in Israel because of what the sign in the heavens said on Rosh Hashanah 2023. And it was the green comet that came through. Remember the green comet? Right through Revelation 12 sign. It was in the constellation. A lot of people said the Revelation 12 sign happened in 2017. I think that was a precursor. It was actually a foreshadowing of what was to come in 2023, and then again in 2024. It happened again. So it happened on Rosh Hashanah 2023, green comet, which they called the wise man-child, just like the book of Revelation says, the man-child. It comes screaming through the woman with the 12 stars at her head, the sun at her back, and the moon at her feet. That's exactly the way the constellation was at the time. And the dragon was there waiting to devour the child, right? Well, there's interpretation in that, but I'm just going to tell you that sign also had it had the planet Mars in there, which always portends war, right? And so the way it was happening right before October 7th, we speculate, and I said I believe that you could go back on our Rumble channel and find it. It was right around September 28th, 29th, I think it was, that I talked about this on our Rumble channel. If you go back and you look and you scroll through, it's probably like around 48 minutes. But we go into a lot more detail. I mention it there. But in our small groups, I went into great detail talking about this sign. Just like I do on the Patreon, I'm going to go into detail. You want to go into the details, get into the Patreon. Well, this small group, we have a small group. We had a small group. We kind of pulled back because we got to spread out too thin. But at that time, we were meeting in our small group. We went into the details. Some of you may remember that we're a part of that, about that Revelation 12 sign. And I speculated, and I believe that it was a word from the Lord, that Israel would be in a chaotic war, that it was coming, it portended war. And it also lined up with a variant that all of a sudden popped out of nowhere. And you can go do a Google search on this variant. It was called Iris, or Iris, E-R-I-S, Iris. You could say it's Iris. It's a Greek god of chaos, war, destruction. And this Greek god name all of a sudden popped out as a variant. It was only there for about 2 weeks or maybe a month. Nothing ever was said about it after. It just all of a sudden popped up right around October, or was September, October? And I remember thinking, okay, that's another sign of what they're saying. They're messaging. They're messaging. This is a message that's going along with what we're seeing with the constellation and Mars, and not to mention the green comet, which just so happened to be man-child, right? There you go, man-child right there. Bam! It was very significant. So then, 1 year later, so you had Rosh Hashanah. It happens on Rosh Hashanah. You got a 10-day period, and then you have Yom Kippur, right? It's like two bookends. 1 year later, on Yom Kippur, the same thing happens. Another comet comes screaming through the constellation of Virgo, and you had the sun at her back and the moon at her feet, just like you did before. Another snake, the snake constellation was there with the crown. It also had the crown. So the serpent is in there, and it's got the crown constellation. I forget what they call it. They call it Coronis, the constellation Coronis. And by the way, in that constellation of Coronis, there is the blaze star, right? That's supposedly going into nova. It hasn't actually gone into nova yet, but they're saying anytime this thing is supposed to blow up. It's probably already blown up because it's so far away. It's already happened. But they say they can tell it happens every 80 years, right? And they chronicle this. It's not actually a nova that destroys the star. It's a different type of a nova that it's a binary planet or some binary star that draws a whole bunch of nitrogen to it from its what do they call it, orbit. And so at a certain point, it flares off and it burns off and it turns into this huge nova, but it doesn't destroy the star. It's just enough that it's kind of sucked off of a main star. And then at a certain point every 80 years, it goes into nova. Well, this thing is supposed to go into nova, and they say they know it's going to go into nova because it depresses and it gets really dim. So they're saying that it happens every 80 years, and they've chronicled it over the centuries a few different times. Not every 80 years have they chronicled it, but the last time I think it was 78 years ago. So they're saying it could happen at any moment. They've been talking about this, and it's right there. It's the eighth. It would be the eighth star, okay? So there's 7 stars in this crown of the serpent, okay? So this serpent crown, the serpent and the crown, and by the way, that serpent constellation has to do with, the medical sign. That's interesting. The serpent and the medical sign. Okay. So then the crown. So this nova is supposed to take place where this 8th star in the crown is supposed to light up. And it could happen at any time. They're saying it's going to happen. They said it was supposed to happen a few months ago, but it's going to happen maybe now. Who knows? It'll be interesting if it happens. I got to put my little box out there. Now, like when the T-Man gets in, like who knows? It could happen anytime. So anyway, so this star is going to go off, and you've got the same constellation layout. You had Mercury in the constellation at the time, which has to do with finance, right? Mercury is finance, economy. Something's going to happen to our economy. I think there's going to be effects on our economy. Now Trump, there's a possibility that there might be some kind of facilitation of this chaos, that he's able to leverage a great amount of momentum. This is my thought. It may not go into complete and utter, destruction of the nation itself, but there's going to be like sacrifices that are going to be had or made, and it's going to probably include things that are happening within our country, but that it's going to be like a facilitation of this agenda that America is supposed to fulfill. Is America Babylon? You have to ask yourself that too. When you look at some of the judgments against Babylon, it's very interesting to see where we might be on this timeline. That's why we have this little think tank. And for those who are interested in prophecy, and you might have something to add to this, we're definitely opening up the mics and having everybody that has thoughts or their interpretation of what's happening. And if you're really a student of what's going on right now, we invite you to come over and be a part of what we're doing and get into the depths of what we think might actually be an interpretation of Daniel and Ezekiel and Revelation and all these different topics that we're kind of going into right now. But I really didn't get into the news here, but I wanted to try to hit the news here really quickly. And this is that video I was telling you about. See, this is where the Antichrist comes out of the womb and he awakens. I'm not going to play it, but one of the things that was in this video too was this was done obviously before Notre Dame burned down, but you see in the background Notre Dame's spires fall in this video. And that's right about the time when the Antichrist is becoming manifest, right? So what happened? Notre Dame burns down, right? And then what happened? They just rebuilt it and they dedicated it not too long ago, a few weeks back. Trump was there. Trump is there at the dedication of this temple, which I believe is very symbolic. It's, there's a lot of symbolism there. We're going to go into that when we get together. But it says Trump is attending a Phoenix Rising ceremony in Notre Dame's Catholic Cathedral on the day that he turns 28,666 days old. Now, these calculators are accurate, and you can get these calculators online, and you can do all the calculations yourself and find out it's true. Just like we did the calculation of the signing of the covenant with many, right? Daniel chapter 9, I think it's verse 27, that this man signs a covenant with many, right? For 3.5 years or 1,260 days, right? So if that truly was the covenant with many, the Abraham Accords, Abraham, the father of many nations, right? Accords, covenant. So we connected that. We said, okay, so I said 1,260 days, expect something to happen on the 1,260th day, 3.5 years. What happened? February 26th, 1,260 days from the signing of the covenant. September 20th, I believe, 2020, I think it was. Yeah, 2020, September 20th, calculated out 1,260 days. February 26th, 2024, he gets a menorah. He gets a Hanukkah, which is a part of the Hanukkah festival, right? On the plaque, it says he's the Prince of Peace. The quote is Isaiah 9:6, the wonderful counsel of the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, upon his shoulders will rest the government. And they praise him as being the man of peace for Israel, which they believe he's going to help rebuild their third temple. And he's also received their, this is coming from the Israel Heritage Foundation, right? Their Facebook page disappeared. I don't know why, but they still have their website, Jewish Heritage Foundation. You can find all that. It's very odd that they didn't make a big deal about it, because Trump, usually Trump tells all about all his accomplishments and everybody blasts out. But that, for some reason, was held under very strict kind of, didn't really get out there that much. But you can find all that information on our website, Blazing Press, if you do a search on it, blazingpress.com, or right here at Blazing Press on our Telegram page. And what ended up happening was he gets this Hanukkah, and Jesus talked about the abomination that causes desolation. He's talking about the Hanukkah. He's talking about the Festival of Lights or the Feast of Dedication. And he's talking about how this is going to be a sign for the latter days. It's going to be the same thing as what happened with Antiochus Epiphanes during the, listen to this. This is another crazy. I feel like Jonathan Cahn. I'm giving you like all these little mysteries. You know how Jonathan's always like the date's here and the date's here and this is the mystery. Well, if you go back to the time when the temple was cleansed, it happened on the 25th of Kislev. 25th of Kislev. The temple was desecrated on the 25th of Kislev, and it was also rededicated or cleansed 3 years later on the 25th of Kislev. So guess what? The devil juice or the magic potion was confirmed on the 25th of Kislev. I think it was 2020. Is that right? I got the date right on that. I can't remember the exact, but it is the 25th of Kislev. It's the same exact date. And the desecration of the human temple, right? The human temple is the desecration that I believe where this technology sits. It's just the Elon technology. And if you haven't really done the deep dive on the technologies that are out there now, it's going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. And one thing I have to say, gosh, there's so much. We just need to write this all out in some documents. But as I was sitting, I'm going to kind of go off track here because I could go off on a lot of rabbit trails. But the video that I was just watching with Brandon Biggs talking to Alex Jones today, he was talking about how these drones that are flying around are going to be chronicling everything, because there's thousands of drones, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands probably, all over our planet now because of what's going on with Starlink. And I don't want to get all into, there's so much stuff I could talk about Elon, but he said that one of the things that he said, and I had a dream about this drone. It's weird. This is so weird. He said, this is why when I was listening to him, I thought, man, that's kind of creepy, because I saw this in a dream not too long ago. He said that at a certain point, these drones would follow people and they would wait until they're actually picked up, and they would monitor you through drone. So I had this dream not too long ago where I was looking out my window and I could see this drone, and this is a dream. This drone could, like, it was trying to see where I was. It was like trying to look through my window. And I remember it couldn't see me because I was hidden and I was not, it wasn't able to really get a real beat on, but it was looking for me in the dream. Like it was almost like it was alien. It was like it had this ability to see, like it was almost like an eye, and this drone was just like out there, just kind of waiting, watching, looking. And when he said that today, I thought of that dream. And he had a word or something back in 2014 about these drones and how they would scan everything. And that's what they're doing. These drones are scanning everything. They're literally doing it with lasers, and they scan everything is scanned. And by the way, the technologies are there right now where they basically just, they can record everything in high definition, and just an amazing amount of data is compiled every single day, and it's on a recording that they can go to any part of the area, probably in the United States, and they can say, oh, I want to look at this grid 2 days ago at this time at this place, and then they can basically pull it up, They can zoom in to the point where you can almost read a license plate, and they can zoom in right in that area and they can see what happened because it's been recorded and it's already chronicled in a database. Isn't that crazy? And the technology's been there for a while. I mean, we knew people back in 2016 because of the bark beetle that was killing all the trees up in Sierra Nevadas. People were trying to cut down the trees because all of them were dead and they needed to clear the land, right? Well, California has this real strict thing about you can't take the trees. You can't take the trees. They were getting the trees to China, and literally they were giving them to them for free. China was taking them, cutting them up, using them into bark, putting them into particle board, and then shipping them back and selling them back to us, right? But they were getting them for free. But they wouldn't let people up in the mountains cut them down. So there was a guy that was telling me, oh yeah, we went out and we cut 10 trees down, and then we got a knock on our door and they knew that we cut them down. We don't know how they knew. Well, they said they saw from satellite, they can tell when the trees are missing. Like, oh, there's 10 trees missing over here. They probably went down, focused in, found out who it was and knew exactly who it was, or they did some kind of investigation or something. But literally just for 10 trees that were already dead. They were just standing dead. You know, the bark beetle has killed like 80-90% of the trees all throughout the Sierra Nevadas. And so, you know, they're all dead up there even now. But that's the type of technology. It's able to see everything, like chronicle it with every, you know, detail. And like I said, you're not going to be able to escape anything. You think you're going to be able to outrun quantum computing, AI technology. That's what they call the Internet of Eyes. This is the Internet of Eyes, the Internet of Bodies. This is when it comes inside you. Your temple is desecrated, right? You now have a MAC address and you're connected through all the frequencies. They can just zoom in on what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, where you're at, whatever. And the Internet of Bodies. And by the way, you become a node for the Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies. And they call it the Internet of Things, the Internet of Bodies. You can look all this up, Internet of Eyes. Also, if you do a search on Microsoft's recent patent, it just so happens to be 060606. Does that kind of weird? And it's a legitimate patent too. It has to do with cryptocurrency rewarding you for things that are done in your body. Digital currencies connected to your physical body. Okay, so go look that up. There's so much more. I can't even begin to tell you all the stuff that's out there that we've seen. Okay, so this is from December. Gosh, this is old. Okay, so let's go back over here. I know there's so much news right now, but ICE officers prepping for a big effing operation across sanctuary cities immediately after Trump's inauguration. Oh, yeah, that's coming. The Wall Street Journal reports that Trump administration will begin mass deportations on Tuesday, starting in Chicago, it should say, and New York City. Right, upwards of 200 agents with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and ICE are expected to take part. Expect chaos. This is the WEFers, World Economic Forum, previously released a video titled Technologists Share Their Vision of Our Future, unquote, which describes a future that includes human genome editing. This gene editing technology, called rewriting the code of life, unquote, will allow them to redesign the human body in the right way. Literally. I don't know if you ever saw that SNL skit with Jimmy Fallon and that sidekick. He always used to do skits with a little blonde girl, and she had there was two sisters, and there was another guy that was with Jimmy Fallon, and they were looking at dating. They were like on a double date, and the one girl was really like fine and hot, and the other girl was like the sister, but she had like an arm growing out of her head. It was like this arm was coming out of her head, and she looked like a freak. That's always what I think about when I think of gene editing. Like you want an arm growing out your head? Is that really seriously? You're gonna literally play God and edit people's genes. I shouldn't be reading all these things because it's obviously just posting it right there for everybody to see there. This is why we do this is why we do the Patreon too, because we want to talk about stuff and hopefully it's not as far out there. Obviously, we're on Zoom, so but anyways, this is what Elon tweeted after Trump won the election and is what was plastered all over the screen behind the speakers at the RNC on day one. Yep, that's true. They put this big old huge eye of Horus and many out of one, or the order of the world, or the worlds of or the order of the world. This is what America's destiny. This was a prophetic. This is a prophetic seal right here. And if you haven't studied up on this seal of the United States, you need to really look into this. And like I said, when you get to these documentaries that we have on our Patreon page, it'll explain in detail and it'll break down everything. Out of many, one. So that's pluribus unum. And then the novus ordo seclorum is, I believe it's order of the world. It's like new world order. It's basically we are the new world order center of the new world order, the United States, and which many people believe is the new Atlantis, or that we are Atlantis revived, or the new Atlantis. Yeah, it's called the New World Order, or the New Order of the Ages, right? New Order of the Ages. And so Elon had that in the back, and it says, what you witnessed over the past few years by these leaders on the world stage was a massive occult ritual to usher in the New World Order. All the pieces of the players have been set. All the pieces and the players have been set. So if you thought that Trump was playing 5D, 6D chess all along, yes, he was, but the ones being played were the supporters, not the elite. And that's absolutely right. All of you out there that thought Trump was doing some 5D chess move, yeah, he was, but not what you think. And it may feel good, it may feel so right, but there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is the way of death. And if you don't have the Lord first and foremost guiding as your guidance system, and he's not truly one with you and you don't know him, then you're going to be deceived. You're going to be turned over, it says, to believe a lie. If you haven't committed your heart and life 100% to God, then you're potentially being given over to believe a lie. And yes, God would do that. Why wouldn't he? If you've rejected the drawing of his Holy Spirit and you've rejected him, then he has every right to just say, okay, well, you want to believe whatever you want to believe, go ahead. Here. Maybe they can promise you eternal life, and they'll edit out the death gene, like they're promising. They're gonna heal cancer. They're gonna heal polio. They're gonna heal. This is what they're talking about right now, too. By the way, Chinese hackers have infiltrated Janet Yellen's computer. That was today, and they said a lot more stuff. That's government. I mean, isn't she government? I mean, is she still in the government, or did she get knocked out? That's like government stuff. I mean, oh, look at Trump's new Homeland Security, DHS security, or DHS head, the nominee Kristi Noem. She says that Homeland Security needs to work more closely with the CIA. And by the way, Trump praised the CIA, remember? He said that everything else is corrupt, but CIA, awesome. We love CIA. People are like, what? CIA is a part of the whole thing. Don't you know? No, but Trump, he knows, but he's, so anyways, they're going to work really closely with the CIA to track and trace you. Ah, the joy. At least we'll be safe, right? So she talks about how they need to work together more closely. And here is the B. Gates talking about his little meeting, 3-hour meeting. It was a very intimate, loving, exciting, same page, goal kind of meeting. They're on the same page, excited. Oh, they're so excited. And B Gates was very excited. He was like, wow, this is amazing. He's going to do the same thing that he did in 2017. You know, that warp speed kind of thing with the new things that are going to be rolled out here. Aren't you ready for that? Are you ready for that, guys? It's coming back. Censorship, lockdowns, who knows whatever else is coming on the back end. Oh boy, I'm telling you. A new strategic partnership treaty was signed with Russia today by Iran, and they're supposed to be security partners. Obviously, they're going to have each other's back. And if Trump does anything to Iran, Russia will intervene, and vice versa, or Israel. But they're looking at Trump as being because Trump kind of came in and made some statements about Iran, not to mention, what's going on there in Gaza with the other group. But some definite stuff's going to hit the fan. And maybe he'll just take out his frustrations on the homeland first. Who knows? Before he really goes, on the global scene. I don't know. I kind of wonder if he's just going to focus on the homeland first. These preparations, we found out yesterday for the inauguration with these helicopters doing grid pattern. They're basically doing these grid pattern. You can watch the video here. They're basically scouring for any kind of radioactive signatures. And while they were watching this video, while they were doing the video, they actually got a hit or an alert. So they have to go check it out, make sure that it's, something that's not nefarious. But it's like a sniffer copter. They sniffs out certain things that are going on. By the way, that lithium battery fire that's happening in California, that's pretty serious. That thing's going to keep burning until it burns itself out. But people are being told to shelter in place and cover their windows and doors and don't turn on the air conditioner or anything like that would draw air from without inside your living space. Very bad. Very bad stuff. I don't know how long that's going to go on for. What was this one? Oh yeah, he's very bullish on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is supposed to now be our foundation of our currency. And by the way, they're saying, and if this is something that is threatening the BRICS and all the other nations that are on the other side of our dollar, that have been de-dollarizing, they're saying that this could literally crash the global economy with us basically holding half of the world's money because of Bitcoin. If that threat were legitimate, that would be like an act of war for many other nations, because they would see that imbalance, world reserve currency status, with what they perceive to be a dictatorial, imperialistic regime. That's the way they would look at it, and they would do everything in their power to stop, whether that's China, Russia, or anybody else. And I don't know if you've seen this, but let me just show you really quick what I'm talking about. Let me just show you really quick here what I'm talking about. Okay, here we go. Okay, just watch this. And especially when this guy, I think there's a guy here at the end here. Let me see if this is right, where I think this is this guy right here. You got to listen to this dude here in the white, the blonde hair or whatever that is. Just watch this. Just watch this. Tell me this is not the mark of the beast. This is the mark of the beast. or the beast technology, I should say. The beast technology. This is the buying and selling end of it. This is the digital currency that's going to be attached to your biology, your physical body. You cannot buy or sell unless you save. You have the mark. And what is the mark? It scans your brain. It literally the retina, the biometric attachments, whether it's your hand or your forehead. Whenever they scan your retina, or even scan your hand, you can pay now with your hand now in some places, or even the technology that's within your nanotechnologies that are in your bloodstream. That's what Elon talked about, coding your cerebral cortex, which basically makes you an interface or a cyborg. You become an interface for the AI. And that's another proposed connection in the forehead, because that's where your cerebral cortex is, right? So there you go. But anyway, here we go. Listen up to this.
Never sell your Bitcoin, right?
The Trumps have been very bullish on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Again, it's coming. Everybody knows it's coming, and the people who don't embrace it early are going to ultimately lose.
Eric Trump recently met with Michael Saylor at Mar-a-Lago, who has been proposing a plan to preserve U.S. dollar dominance by utilizing Bitcoin as a reserve.
Here's the strategy. You dump gold, demonetize the entire gold network, you buy Bitcoin, you buy 5 million or 6 million Bitcoin, you monetize the Bitcoin network, and you just define digital currency as the US dollar backed by US dollar equivalents in a regulated US custodian. Replaces every currency in the world with the dollar, which the US controls, and it siphons off hundreds of trillions of dollars of 20th century capital assets and half of the capital in the rest of the world. And 75% of the capital of our enemies gets siphoned into Bitcoin. And the big beneficiary is the US government. And after that, every US company, because we're the ones that own and run it.
Trump has been rebranding the North American Union as Canada being the 51st state of the United States. And Justin Trudeau has now resigned, leaving a clear path for Pierre Poilievre to make significant changes.
We haven't really seen a lot of concrete proposals from Mr. Poilievre. I mean, he did make one. That's not fair. You're right. He had one great opportunity for people to opt out of inflation. He recommended this last spring. You can opt out of inflation if you invest your money in Bitcoin. Yeah. No. He stayed up late, watched all sorts of YouTube videos, and came to that conclusion. He said that himself.
We're going to buy this shawarma with this Bitcoin. Send.
Done. Yep, I got it.
You got that? Guys, we did it. We bought the shawarma with Bitcoin. So that is my plan, to enable Canada to become the blockchain and crypto capital of the world.
Debt slavery has existed on Earth for thousands of years, which is why a cashless society has been of great concern to freedom-loving souls. In the earliest days of civilization, farmers would borrow against their harvest, and if the harvest failed, the farmer would lose everything and become a slave until the debt was repaid. Eventually, the amount of slaves with nothing to lose becomes a threat to those in power, and so debt jubilees were issued at regular intervals as a matter of public stability. The Bible describes a debt jubilee that would happen every 50 years as an economic reset, a year of liberation and restoration where debts are forgiven, land is returned, and slaves are set free. The ancient Greeks had debt jubilees to avoid violent revolutions and uprisings. As economist Lynn Alden wrote, it wasn't out of kindness that rulers did this. It was a solution to a societal math problem. If you run a computer long enough, eventually it starts to work less efficiently. Refreshing the power and rebooting the system gets the computer running smoothly again. A Jubilee year has been celebrated every 25 years by the Catholic Church since 1300. But the need for debt forgiveness has been avoided by the current debt-based fiat system and the Uniform Commercial Code, which has been running for nearly a century.
Okay, so basically that was the Reese report. You can find that on our Telegram page too. So, anyways, this is kind of the things that are happening here, and we're kind of preparing for a news cycle that I think is going to be around the clock. And you're going to find the streaming of Blazing Press 24/7 with all the different feeds right here when these things begin to happen. And we're going to kind of break it down as we see it, as it happens in real time. So make sure you're connected in every way to our social media so you know, so you don't miss anything. I try not to post too late. I know lately I've been kind of posting kind of late, which I probably shouldn't have, but I wasn't able to post some stuff earlier in the day the other night. But I if you're keeping our feed on our Telegram page on your phone with a sound, alert, if anything does happen late at night, you'll get it. We'll try only to post during the daytime hours because we want people to be alerted if something goes down. And it could happen at any time, day or night. When we get the information, we'll post it right there on Telegram. And we'll also post it on our Patreon page too. So if you're a member of our Patreon, you can be a free member too, by the way. If you want to be a free member over there on Patreon, you can and just get the alerts. I post a lot of public stuff there too. So, but for those that are supporters, we always, do the deep dive on that. But like I said, if you want to be a supporter or just a free member over there on Patreon, you can still get the alerts. I think you will get kind of a notification, but Telegram is the best way to get notified. This is interesting. Capital One had a technical outage today, and there was a huge amount of problems with people being able to access their money. Let's see. Let me see if it's still happening here with Capital One here. Yep, Capital One is still on the forefront of the down detector. Let me see how many. So just over the last, there's still a lot of reports coming in, even at this late hour. But there was, at one point, there was like 4,000 reports every few minutes, which represent a huge amount of people. So, Capital One, what was going on there? Totally, completely out of commission there. Your money just lost for a little while there. It says customers report not seeing deposits reflected in their accounts. Capital One has assured them that their funds are safe. However, customers said that they have not been able to pay electric bills, rent, or buy groceries because their accounts have been empty. Wow. I wonder how that's going to pan out. I do think that people are going to be exposed here with all this stuff going on right now. This is a good little visual here. Jeremiah 6:16 verses 19 through 19. Thus says the Lord, stand by the roads and look and ask for the ancient paths where the good way is, and walk in it and find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk in it. I set watchmen over you, saying, pay attention to the sound of the trumpet. But they said, we will not pay attention. Therefore, hear, O nations, and know, O congregation, what will happen to them. Hear, O earth, behold, I am bringing disaster upon this people, the fruit of their devices, because they have not paid attention to my words. And as for my law, they have rejected it. With that, I'm going to say good night, and I'm going to play a song for you. I'm going to play a song for you on the way out, okay? In light of that last scripture. Let's pull it up here on the screen. Let's see if this is it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, somebody just made the. I don't think there's lyrics on here. Oh yeah, yeah, there is. Okay, so the lyrics are really great, and it's an old '80s song, kind of a '80s group. Some of you guys might know it. It goes along with the scripture that I just showed you. But really think about, contemplate the message, and apply it. It's important to apply it, and that's why I encourage you to show up for our daily meetings. Spiritual rejuvenation and synchronization, because you got to get tuned, like the tuning fork. Everybody's got to be tuned to the same frequency. Most High, get the word in your heart. He'll guide and direct your steps, and then you won't have any bad outcomes. You will end well. You want to end well? Okay, I do. I want to end well. Amen. And anyway, God bless all of you out there. God's blessings upon you richly, and joy unspeakable, full of his glory, as you apprehend his full counsel and his perfect will. Be done in your life in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. God bless, and I will talk to you guys very soon.